brought the Draper University students to Elon Musk's factory, and the advice Elon gave them was,
Don't do it.
Hey guys, we're here today with Tim Draper. He's the investor behind Tesla, he's the investor behind Hotmail and Skype, and I have here some critical questions about startups for him to where he'll share his wisdom with you so you can build more successful, bigger companies. What advice would you give to new entrepreneurs, and what are kind of your principles of success for building companies?
So it's fun. At Draper University, we have students that come in and I say, we're all gathered around the outside near the pool and I say, okay, well, you're going to start a business, so what do you need? And they say, well, we need a product, or somebody says we need to find a customer, we need some, and I say, no, you just need to take the first step.
Yeah.
And so then I fall into the pool with my suit on and the whole thing, and there's a reason for it. It's take the step. It's the great unknown.
Yeah.
Enjoy your life.
Yeah.
You only get one of them.
Yeah.
You might as well try stuff.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to try stuff. It'll be, so what? You get embarrassed or your friends ostracize you or whatever. It doesn't matter. In the long run, what really matters is the experience you're going to have, the learning you're going to get from doing stuff that is so much better than the learning you get from whatever any other way of learning.
Yeah.
So go do stuff. That's the only advice I can give you.
Got it.
Take it. Make sure you're providing a service that someone will pay for.
Yeah.
Find customers, and then feed those customers exactly what they need, which is not always what they're asking for.
Yeah.
But feed them, but make sure you are always very sensitive to your customer.
What advice would you give to people who are building free products?
So if you're building a free product, I hope that you've built it with an idea of a business model in mind in the future. But what's great about a free product is that it can spread much more quickly. And you can then build, there are lots of ways to do it. So let's say you started with a free product and everyone on the planet has your free product and you have not made a single cent.
Yeah.
Why is that worth anything? Well, distribution is worth a lot. And you now have distribution. Yeah. As long as you have end user access, you have distribution. Yeah. You can sell them other things beyond the free product that you offer. And that's the way a lot of great businesses were started. It's funny, Hotmail has always been free. Yeah. Microsoft bought it. Turns out it was the best acquisition they ever made. They paid a lot of money for it, but it was all free, and they kept it free. Yeah. But what did they use it for? Distribution. Now they can reach all those people and sell them Office, whatever, Excel, whatever. I don't know what else. They exchange. They sell a whole bunch of other things. So having it free to start with made a lot of sense. And for them, they kept that service free, knowing that they could sell a lot of other stuff to those people. Skype, on the other hand, provided a free service for anyone who was a Skype member. Yeah. You got free long-distance phone calls, but then they said, but if someone calls into the Skype number, that's Skype in, that you have to pay for. And if you're Skyping out to a phone number, you have to pay for it. So they ended up figuring out how to actually make a lot of money with a free service.
Yeah. So still bullish. You still think it's a good idea because of that reach, because of the masses, right?
Distribution's a really important part of any business.
Yeah.
And yes, you should still, I actually think it is, as a startup, you should think, what are you going to give to them free? Yeah. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It helps you think about, how do I reach all these people in the first place? Let's give them something free. Yeah. That doesn't cost you much. But give it to them, and then what else can you add?
You were coined as kind of the guy who invented viral marketing because of the Hotmail. You put the line at the bottom. You said, "P.S. I love you. Get your Hotmail email here." Yeah. What are kind of what's?
Yeah, and if they had kept "P.S. I love you," might have been a more peaceful and loving world. I don't know if it would have been more viral, but it would have been more peaceful and loving because every email, at the end of every email saying "P.S. I love you." Yeah. I mean, the world would be a very loving place.
What are some of the keys to make a product go viral?
It has to be of value to them, because nothing's really free because it takes some of your time.
Yeah.
So for it to be free and valuable, it has to provide a service that they really need. And the free part of it is just a way, it's really a marketing tool to allow you to spread it and take a piece of people's time.
Yeah.
But it's free for money.
You had 600 failed startups, right?
Yeah.
I think you said 600 failed startups.
Oh, yeah.
So the question I
At
would
least.
say,
I'm sure we have more than that. We just don't know it yet.
how many actual companies account for 80% of the wealth? So if 600 companies failed, how many actual companies account for 80% of the wealth created?
80%. Let's say there were 1,000 companies that I backed. I think it's more than that, but let's say there are 1,000.
Yeah.
I'd say 500 of those would fail over time.
Yeah, yeah.
Ideally, they would do something good for society in the meantime, or create competition for somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that, Friendster and what was the other one, have provided competition for Facebook to become the great social
same for
media
Napster, right?
company.
Napster provided for
Yeah,
others.
right. And Napster provided
For
file sharing for
Spotify and Skype.
for Skype and help Skype.
Yeah.
So they did, even the failed ones, hopefully they've helped us make progress. But financially, I would say 10% make up 90% of the wealth.
Got it.
And maybe 2% make up 80% of it.
Two companies.
2%.
2% of 100.
So if there are 1,000 companies, it would have been 20.
Got it. So 20 companies.
Yeah,
That's all.
And actually, it's pretty interesting because I've invested in about 1,000 companies, and I've got 35 unicorns.
Got it.
So those are the ones that created all the jobs and all the wealth and all the, the spirit and the. But the other ones also make big impacts on society, and a failed entrepreneur doesn't understand how impactful they've been.
Yeah.
Even though their business didn't quite pick up the way it could have. And they're not always total failures. But when they go out of business, often it's just a stepping stone for the entrepreneur to do the next one.
Yeah.
And so I like the fluidity of it. And some of them are tragic. People throw their life and money and everything into their business, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or some new technology comes along and transforms it. But it really, overall, for society, it really works. It moves progress forward at a much faster rate than if we were all working for the government.
You brought the Draper University students to Elon Musk's factory, and the advice Elon gave them was,
Don't do it.
Can you kind of elaborate a little bit? Why did he say this? What was his objective? What was his goal for this?
Well, Elon, that particular day, had just gone through, he was launching the S-Car, and he had orchestrated one of the great launches I've ever seen in my life. He had the governor there, they cut the cord, they had, or the ribbon, they had the first 8 of us who were buying the cars, waiting in line to take our car and drive it off. He had all of the people who had anything to do with Tesla out there watching this whole thing. It was a huge spectator sport, and he was very kind in allowing my students to come, and then he spoke to them before going and doing the grand opening. And he was tired. He had been working all night. He was totally wiped out. And I asked him, well, what advice would you give to these aspiring entrepreneurs? And he just looks at him and goes, don't do it.
That's crazy.
He's terrific. And I said I wanted to turn a Tesla into a reception desk.
I saw that.
And he gave it to me.
I saw that.
He just said, "Oh yeah, we got one right here. Why don't I just give it to you?" And we got an artist to carve it up, and
it's awesome.
And it's a great desk. I think it's been good PR for him. We've had thousands and thousands of people through here taking their selfies with our desk lot.
I read your bucket list. So you made a bucket list. You said at 32, it was 101 things.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you it was awesome. I listened to all of it. So how important is it, you believe, for people to have a bucket list? Because I think most people don't have this. They kind of just live, right? How important is this, and what advice would you give on the bucket list overall?
You know what the bucket list has been great for me for? And I did it when I was about 35, and I was on a very jumpy, bumpy plane with Ted Leonsis, who helped start AOL, his company got bought into AOL, and he helped build it. And then he now owns the Wizards and a couple of other professional teams. He's a big success. But we were 35, and we were just kind of getting to know each other, and we were in an airplane that looked like it was going to crash. It was bouncing all over the place, and we had that sort of elevator ride feeling in our stomachs, bouncing. And he said, "Have you made a bucket list?" And or a list of 100. It was before the bucket list coin. But have you made a list of the 100 things you want to do before you die? And I said no, and he said, "Do it." So I did it on the airplane, and the writing was like this because it was being bounced all over. So I wrote, I got 85. I came up with 85 on the list just in the airplane, and then I finished it off. What it's been really good for, part of it's been good for all those things you kind of think, someday I'd like to do this. Yeah. Well, I did them. Yeah. Because they were on the list. Yeah. Someday, so what it's good for that. But the other part it's good for is that when we're working, we're all in a grind. And there are all those things that you have to do, and you get them done and whatever. But if you're close to something that's on your bucket list, it'll take you off the track for just a while, and it'll be a great story. And so I always feel like it's good. It's been really good for me. And I think if people have that, whenever you went off that track, when you come back onto the track, you have more to give. You have an experience that can improve your work, and that has worked very well for me.
How about the visiting 100 countries? Visiting 100 countries, that's an awesome.
I have now visited well over 75 countries.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm writing too, because that's on the list, and I wrote a book, and I wouldn't ever have written a book. I would have always thought I'd write a book, but I never would have written one if I hadn't put it on the bucket list. And that book's been fantastic. People come to me from all over. Entrepreneurs come to me and say, "Wow, I wish I had read that before I started the business, but now that I've read it, I'm a better entrepreneur." And others come to me and say, "I read your book. I want you to back me." I don't want these other guys. I want you to back me because I do lay it all out on the line, and they know that it's my voice. It's no ghostwriter. That's why I call it beta version 0.91 or 92, is because I'm looking at it as a work in progress. But it's been a great thing, and it's been great marketing for us. Amazing for the Draper University, for the Draper Venture Network, for Draper Associates. All have just taken off because.
One thing you mentioned that a lot of people don't advise to is writing a business plan. You actually spend like a chapter in your book saying, "Hey, you should write a business plan. This is what to include." Why do you think so many people say you don't need a business plan, just start executing stuff? What are kind of your thoughts on this whole thing?
That's a little bit a sign of the times, because we're in a boom time right now, and the entrepreneur can say, "Hey, I got 2 term sheets. Can you beat it?" And the venture capitalist, looks at him and says, "Well, what do you do?" It's that kind of a time. And so they're saying, why do I waste my time writing a business plan when I can just write a little slide deck and I can show it to somebody and then that's good enough?
Yeah.
I still think it's a good idea to write it all down and then create the slide deck, because as you're writing, certain things come to you,
Yeah.
like pricing. How should I price this service? Should I give it away?
Yeah.
Should I price it later? What's my strategy? Just things to think about. Who is my customer? How do I target that customer?
Yeah.
What do they want, and what am I giving them, and how close are they to the same thing? I think it's a good idea to write it all out, because you have to make all those decisions and then do the slide presentation, because then it'll be a much better presentation. You'll also have a better idea where you're headed.
Yeah.
So yeah, business plan's a good idea.
Awesome. Tim, thank you so much for doing this interview.
My pleasure.
Thank you.